Well, the NATO Secretary-General, Jens Stoltenberg, he has called a special meeting today here at NATO HQ in Brussels with all of the 29 members, ambassadors in attendance to discuss how they go forward. Already, NATO has scaled back its operations, its training operations for Iraqi forces who are being trained in order to counter the so-called Islamic State group. It's going to really test NATO unity, however, because you see countries like Turkey, which is obviously a member of NATO, has much warmer relations with Iran than the rest of the NATO military alliance. Obviously, with the United States, the key member which has conducted this airstrike which killed Qasem Soleimani. So there is going to be a big discrepancy. They're going to have to try and find a way forward, and we can expect some tough meetings at NATO headquarters.
Back in the EU, another very big issue for the new European High Representative for Foreign Affairs is, of course, working out a response to these developments as a result of Friday's airstrike. What has that been so far?
That's right. So Joseph Borrell, who's the new foreign policy chief of the European Union, was on the phone with the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif over the weekend. He invited him to Brussels to try and discuss a way forward through this and said that the Iranians must try to de-escalate this. It's quite interesting. I think a lot of the European response has been directed towards the Iranians. They haven't been speaking too much yet directly to the Americans. Having said that, the British Prime Minister and the French President did speak to Donald Trump over the weekend. But they're trying to say to the Iranians not to respond, despite all of the harsh words coming from senior Iranian politicians and ministers, etc. Interestingly as well, we've seen countries like Denmark and Sweden pull their operations and troops out of Iraq immediately in the wake of this event. So there is going to have to be an attempt from the European Union, at least, to try and come together with some sort of unified response. But bearing in mind that really, when it comes to it, it's France, Germany and the United Kingdom who have the military power and who are signatories to that Iran nuclear deal, which was signed back in 2015.
Well, talking about the deal, which now appears to be rendered totally redundant, two of the signatories, France and Germany, have they spoken out yet about their reaction?
Yeah, they've called, Rosie, for a de-escalation. They want the Iranians to stay within the nuclear deal. But as you say, a lot of people around the world think that this deal, since Donald Trump pulled the United States out of it, that it was essentially dead in the water. They are still trying to keep Iran within it. That's what the press statements are saying, that they want Iran to remain within the nuclear deal, but the Iranian authorities have said that they will no longer abide by that. The issue now is how the Iranians respond to what's happened, whether they move to execute the military threats that they perhaps are saying, and also if Donald Trump does decide to hit some of the cultural targets that he said he would, whether the European Union and European countries can follow him into that, bearing in mind that it is considered a war crime, Rosie.